Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 6 p.m. here in Cairo. Time for the news with me, Al-Hamalawi, and we start off with a look at the headlines. President Sisi reviews stages of establishing Daba's nuclear station. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry heads to Sudan to discuss bilateral ties with senior officials. And Arab League's permanent representatives meet on the latest Middle East developments. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah Sisi directed adhering to the highest safety and security standards in all stages of establishing a Daba nuclear station. This came during a meeting with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, the Minister of Electricity and the head of the Nuclear Stations Authority. The head of state reiterated the importance of the nuclear energy in generating electricity in Egypt, adding that it also adds to the energy varieties. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi said that the president has reviewed during the meeting the latest developments of establishing the electric infrastructure of the new administrative capital, in addition to the project of ultra-high voltage cables.
الدولة الوحيدة اللي واقفة على حيلها انتم. قد يكون في اخطاء، قلت لكم المشكله كبيره، والمشكله دي انا مش هقدر عليها لوحدي، لكن نقدر عليها كلنا. دوري عملته، بس دوركم انتوا دلوقتي. لما طلبتوني لقيتوني، ولم ابخل عليكم بحياتي. جه الدور عليكم وانتوا وعدتوني انكم هتقفوا جنبي. الإصلاح بياخد وقت طويل، ولازم نعترف إن ال6 سنين اللي فاتوا إن إحنا دولة ظروفها صعبة. تحيا مصر مش بالكلام.
مفيش أي حل تاني غير إن إحنا نشتغل.
شايفة مستقبل أولادي ومستقبل أجيال كتيرة جاية في مصر.
نقدر نعمل أكتر من كده، نقدر نجتهد، نقدر نعمل حاجات كتير في أرضنا.
ما تتخلوش عن بالكم، أنا اخترت الطريق الصعب. أنتوا اللي هتحددوا مصير مستقبل مصر بقوة شبابها.
Welcome back. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry heads tomorrow to the Sudanese capital Khartoum, where he will meet with senior Sudanese officials in light of the strong ties binding both neighbors. Spokesman for the Foreign Ministry, Ahmed Hafiz, said that Shoukry will be meeting Chief of Sudan's Sovereign Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and his Sudanese counterpart, Asma Abdullah. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held a phone call with his Indian counterpart on means of enhancing bilateral ties, as well as a set of issues of mutual concern. The spokesman for the Foreign Ministry, Ahmed Hafiz, said that the two ministers hailed the promoted level of bilateral cooperation on different fronts and expressed desire in further boosting them. The talks also covered the latest developments in Kashmir, with the Indian minister saying that he hopes to avoid further escalation in the volatile region. And moving on, Egyptian Foreign Ministry follows through the Egyptian Embassy in Morocco the procedures of transferring the body of the Egyptian scientist Abu Bakr Abdel Menaim Ramadan. The great scientist died after attending an energy conference in Marrakesh, Morocco. Ramadan was head of the National Observatory Network at the Egyptian Nuclear and Radiological Regulatory Authority. The regional front, Syria condemned on today the joint U.S.-Turkish patrols in a border strip in the northeastern of the country, saying that it was flagrant violation of its sovereignty. Armed Turkish military vehicles crossed into Syria and headed southwest with their U.S. counterparts to begin planned joint patrols to establish a safe zone along a border region mainly controlled by Kurdish forces. Syrian Foreign Ministry statement said that the move was also a violation of the territorial integrity of Syria, referring to what the government considers as attempts by U.S.-backed Kurdish YPG militia to divide the country. Meanwhile, the Syrian army said that its air defenses foiled a drone attack by terrorist groups on a main military base in northwestern Syria, where a Russian-brokered ceasefire has stopped months of fighting. The army said in a statement reported on Syrian state media that the 3 drones, which were carrying explosives, were shot down and destroyed in Idlib without causing any losses. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates today called on Yemen's legitimate government and separatists to halt all military actions or violations against public and private property in South Yemen. The 2 countries said in a joint statement carried by Saudi state news agency that ceasing all sorts of violence would pave the way for launching a dialogue between the 2 warring parties in a bid to hammer out a peaceful settlement to their conflict. The Libyan National Army has hit anti-government militia targets south of the capital Tripoli. After nearly a month of cautious calm that overwhelmed different fighting fronts, clashes were renewed between army troops and the armed militias, with the army spokesman saying that at least 17,000 terrorists were killed since an offensive was launched in early April against terrorist groups across the country. The 152nd round of the Arab League's permanent representatives meetings kicked off today in Cairo in preparation for the upcoming foreign ministerial meeting scheduled for Tuesday under the chairmanship of Iraq. Today's meeting includes discussions of 8 key topics, atop of which is the Palestinian cause, particularly in light of the renewed Israeli violations at the occupied Old City of Jerusalem, as well as the Syria-occupied Golan Heights. The meeting also brings into focus means of maintaining the funding resources for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, and also the Arab water security. Developments in Syria, Libya, and Yemen are also to be tackled during the meeting. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's office said today that the government has appointed Theresa Coffey as Work and Pensions Minister. Coffey replaces Amber Rudd, who resigned yesterday in protest at Johnson's handling of the country's departure from the European Union. And France urged Iran today to halt its moves to downgrade a landmark nuclear pact, saying the channels for dialogue were still open. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian said that channels for dialogue are still open, including today. The decision, plus 2 earlier moves to step back from commitments set in 2015 nuclear accord, comes despite European efforts spearheaded by Paris to get Tehran to continue to respect the pact, which US President Donald Trump withdrew from last year. And the Russians voted in local elections today that will test the popularity of Russian President Vladimir Putin and his allies after a crackdown on opposition protests in Moscow. Elections for municipal councils and regional governors took place across the country, but most attention was focused on Moscow, where tens of thousands took to the streets this summer after potential opposition candidates were barred from the vote. The atmosphere in the capital was festive as the city this weekend celebrated the annual Moscow City Day with street parties, balloons, and mass dance routines. The Bahamians scrambled to escape the island hardest hit by Dorian, which has killed at least 43 people, while the storm wreaked havoc farther north in Canada after making landfall near Halifax. Even as some Bahamians began to reunite with their loved ones, the death toll, 35 so far in the Abaco Islands and 8 in Grand Bahama, was likely to climb significantly, according to the Prime Minister. A loosely coordinated armada of passenger planes, helicopters, and both private and government boats and ships, including redirected cruise liners, covered in the Bahamas on the horribly battered Abacos to help with evacuations both to Nassau and to the U.S. mainland. Fighters battled more than 100 bushfires across 2 eastern states on Sunday, as authorities warned that parts of the country could expect severe bushfire season this summer. The fires in the states of Queensland and New South Wales, many out of control, have destroyed at least 20 properties, with authorities saying that the number is likely to increase. No deaths have been reported, but a 66-year-old volunteer firefighter remains in a critical condition in hospital after sustaining serious burns on Friday. Resuming our news bulletin with a look at the latest business and financial news. Back home, Egypt's stock market indices collectively rose during today's session, boosted by purchasing operations carried out by investors and foreign corporations. The benchmark EGX30 index added 0.1% to reach 14,944 points, and the medium-capped index EGX70 was also up 1%. The more expanded EGX100 index edged higher 0.6%. Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz appointed Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman as Energy Minister today, replacing Khalid al-Falih. Saudi officials said that Prince Abdulaziz, a long-standing member of the Saudi delegation to the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC, with decades of experience in the oil sector, is not expected to change the kingdom's oil and OPEC policies. He helped negotiate the current agreement between OPEC and non-OPEC countries, a group known as OPEC Plus, to cut global crude supply to support prices and balance the market. The United Arab Emirates Energy Minister Suhail al-Mazrou'i said today that oil producers will do whatever is necessary to rebalance the crude market, depressed by the trade tensions and an uncertain global outlook. He warned, however, that with the U.S.-China trade row hanging over the world economy, additional output cuts may not be the best way to boost sagging prices. The Emirati minister was speaking ahead of a four-day World Energy Congress starting Monday in Abu Dhabi, where a key meeting of oil ministers will also be held.